Hello, my friends, and happy holidays. I'm here with a little present for you. I like to do a little something every year for the holidays for my bead friends. And this year I'm doing a video workshop on my starflower earrings. This is a design, it may be familiar to you. It dates back to my 2010 book, Embellished Bead Weaving, but it actually goes way, way back to the last century, to the 1990s, when I was producing jewelry for, I was selling to sort of museum shops and boutiques and that kind of thing, and I had a very simplified version with a single flower on it. It was the most popular line item, so I've made hundreds, if not thousands, of these little guys. I have a lot of practice. But I did make it a little bit more elaborate for the book with the 3 flowers, and so that's what we're going to be doing today in the video. I'm going to be demoing in the original colors here, but I've also done this sort of white and silver colorway, which is sort of nice for this time of year. It's sort of snowflake like in nature. So I went with that colorway as well. If you scroll down in the show notes below, you will find that there is a link down there to a PDF, which is the most recent version of the instructions. So you can grab that. And in there on the last page, you will find I've listed out both of these different colorways. I've given you all the color numbers on all of the beads used there. So if you want to reproduce what you see in the video, you can find all that information in there. So let's bead. Okay, before we get going, let's just go over the materials really quickly that you're gonna need. If you have a look here, I've put out 2 examples of the earring. This one is sort of the brighter colors, more like flowers here, and that's what I'm gonna be demoing for you today. But I've also put this one here, which is done with silvers and whites, and it kind of has that snowflake effect. So I wanted to show you that option as well. Now you're going to need 5 colors of 15 round Japanese seed beads. So you can see I have them laid out here. I tend to work in a spectrum. So if you look at my 15A, it starts with this sort of goldy green color, and I work my way out to this sort of, it's like a dark blue metallic plum color there. So I work my way along. Now, as far as where they're going, the 15A, 15B are going to be towards the inside here around the pearl. So those are kind of towards the center of the flower. And then the 15E is going to be the petals. So that gives you a sense of where everything's going to be going. Now you're going to need 2 colors of 11 round Japanese seed beads. I have my A and my B here. The A I tend to match to my 15A, so something, it's not an exact match, something similar. And then my 11B, I tend to try to match up to my 15E. So, and actually, believe it or not, those are the same color number. These look a bit different because it's just a larger size bead, but they are the same number there. Now you're going to need some 3mm drops. These are Toho Magatamas that I went with, but you could also use Miyuki drops or even the Czech drops. Czech make sort of slightly smaller. They're like a 2.5mm. That is what I ended up using in these earrings here, but those will work as well. So just relatively small drops. You're going to need some larger 4x6mm Czech drop beads, and you can see those. Those are sort of fuchsia ones in here, and they're sort of an etched crystal AB here, which are quite nice. There's going to be some 4x6mm crystal rondelles, or you can opt for, if you prefer, you can use a Czech glass bead. That works fine as well. Now, 5mm pearls. These are a little bit on the optional end of things. What I use them for is in this earring here, I used it at the top, you know, right where the rondelle is. In this one, I actually wanted something a bit bigger, so I actually ended up using a 6mm here. So if you're going to go with the smaller size, you'll want those. If you just decide to go ahead and use the larger 6mm, which is what we're using in the flowers, you won't need the 5. So that's kind of, I leave that up to you. You are going to need 6mm glass pearls. You will need 3 per earring for the flowers, and then if you decide you want to use it at the top like I did here, you'll need a 4th one, so that would be 8 altogether if you're just using the 6mm glass pearls. You are going to need also, just to finish it off, a pair of French ear wires, and you can go with whatever style you like. You'll be attaching them at the end, and I kind of like these ones that have the little ball of metal there, but this is entirely up to you, so whatever you like in that regard. I opted for a gold-filled one here because it seemed sort of to make more sense with the goldy colors in this. And then, of course, this is white and silver, so I used a sterling silver here. And of course, tools, we'll just cover those real quick. You are gonna need some thread. I use Fireline, whatever you wanna use. You don't have to use Fireline, but that's what I use and what I'll be using today. If you do use Fireline, don't go over 6 pound because you're gonna be doing a lot of passes. So stick with 6 pound or less. And then if you're using a nylon thread, you can, anything that's a D weight is fine. You're gonna need some needles, and you're gonna want some size 13 needles because again, there's a lot of passes here. So go with the size 13 needles. If you like to use it, wax. I have my wax there, my microcrystalline. You are going to need a good pair of scissors here. So there's my little scissors. And also, you may not need it, but you may need a pair of pliers there to put the French ear wires on at the end. So those are the basic tools. Without further ado, let's get going. Okay, so let's make ourselves a starflower earring here. As far as thread, you can use single or double. I like to use a double thread just because it makes stiffer petals in the flowers here. But I will leave that up to you. If you prefer a single thread, you can do that. If you're working with a double thread, use about 8 to 10 feet of thread, which when you double it, you'll have 4 to 5 feet of working thread. If you're working single, you only need about 4 or 5 feet. What I'm going to do here is I have a contrast color 11. It doesn't have to be an 11, it can be sort of any color. You just want it to be a contrast, and it's going to serve as a stop bead. So what I'm doing is I'm just kind of pulling the thread through, and I want to go until I have about a 10-inch. I want about a 10-inch tail because we're going to be using that tail later to add the sort of embellishment beads in the loop that you see kind of at the top here of it. So I'm just going to pass through that bead again. It's going to be our stop bead. Just like that. And now we want to string up some of our 11 A's here. So as far as the number, I do in the pattern, I do 14, you can 14 to 16. You can do less or more if you like, but that's what we're going to go with. We'll go with 14 today. So let's see, that is 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So you want to string those guys up. It's our 11 A's. Going to pull those down. And now what we're going to do is we're going to start off, we're going to be adding the pearl, and we're going to be building these flowers. If you have a look here, they're built from the inside out to the petals. So I'm going to start off here with I'm going to kind of move him out of the way there, with my 6mm pearl. And what we're going to do is we're going to pick up a 15A, a 15B, and a 15A. So I got my 3 beads on there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to slide these guys down, and I'm going to go back through that pearl and kind of make a little picot with those 3 beads. So you can see going back through the pearl, pull everything down, just like that. I want to kind of pop everything into place. And, if I move the stop bead here, it will loosen up, but we want to try to keep everything tight as we work. So if you have to slide that up to tighten it, go ahead and do that. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up 9 beads in an alternating pattern. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a B and a B and A, B, A, B, A, and B. So that should give us 9 altogether. So alternating, starting off with your 15 B's. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here, and I'm just going to pass through, I want to pass through all 3 beads in this picot here. So I'm going to go up. You often have to do it, 1 bead at a time. But we're going to go up, and then through that middle one in the picot, and then through the 3rd one there in the picot. So there we go. And again, this is loosening up, so I can just tighten it up a little bit, and that should pop my picot back into place there. We can get that picot looking more like a picot. So now what we're going to do is same thing on the other side here. We're going to go alternating between our B's and our A's. So again, a B, an A, B, A, back and forth, until we have a total of 9 of them on there. So we want the same number on this side as we had on the other side. And of course, starting with a B and ending with a B. So I have my beads there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come around, I'm going to cover the other side of this pearl. And what I want to do is go up through that 11 that's at the base of the pearl, kind of with my needle headed towards the pearl. You can see the direction on there. And then I'm going to go through that first 15 that we added. So that would be a 15B there. I want to make sure I go through that. And we're going to pull everything into place. There we go. And that kind of creates, there's the center of our flower. And now we're going to be building off of this and working kind of out to the petals. So the next round, if you want to call it that, is going to be using the 15 C's here. So what I'm going to be doing is just picking up a 15C. I'm going to skip the next bead, which happens to be a 15A, and go through the bead after that, which is a 15B. So let's see, go through there, just like that. So it's peyote stitch that we're doing here. And we're just going to kind of work our way all the way around. You know, you kind of have to fiddle with it sometimes as you add these beads here. So pick up one and then skip a bead, go through the bead after that. You can see just like that. And I'm going to keep working all the way around here. One thing I do want to point out, which is, I'm going to keep you with me for a second here, is that when we get to where the picot is, what you're going to be doing is just picking up a bead and passing through that center bead in the picot. So it's a regular peyote stitch here, and now we're kind of up to the picot at this point. So up to the picot, I'm going to pick up my bead here, my 15C, and just go through. That would be the middle bead on the picot there. So you just want to pass through that. And then we're going to keep going with our peyote stitch. Pick up another one and skip a bead and go through the next bead. So I'm going to go ahead and finish off this round, and then I'm going to come back and we're going to do the round where we're actually adding the petals in. Okay, so I'm just finishing up the round here. I have the last 15C, so I'm going to skip my 15A there, go through my 15B like this, and I just wanted to show you, just so we can go over quickly the direction you're moving in here. We want to go through that 11 there. Again, that's the 11 that's right underneath the pearl. But again, I'm kind of going in that direction, sort of towards the pearl. It's a little, you know, tilted at this point because of the way we've passed through it previously, but we want to go kind of upward through that. And then what we're going to do is we are going to step up here through this is going to be the 15B and then the 15C that I added. Here we go. Pull this all through. Okay, and now we're ready to make our first petal. So the way the petals are going to be made is like this. We are going to pick up a 15D, and then we're going to pick up an 11B, and then we're going to go with 3 15E. Quite similar to the 15D, but a little bit different. They are different colors. So 3 15E, we're going to slide everything down. You kind of want to hold this nice and tight. If you have a look, I sort of hold everything with my thumb like that and kind of make sure it's nice and tight. We're going to go through that 11B again, and that's going to make a little picot with our 15Es. So I pull this down like that. And then I'm going to pick up another 15D here and go through the next 15C, if you can see like that. So that makes one petal. So I'm going to work my way around. What you want to do is we're going to be adding a petal like this between all of the 15Cs. So when we're all done, we're going to end up with 9 petals going around there. So let me go ahead and do that. And when I come back, I'm going to show you kind of how we're going to continue on, you know, finish this off and continue up the stem. Okay, so I have finished all 9 of those petals there, and now what I'm going to do, you can see I've come through that 15C there, but I also want to go through that 15B like that, and now the top 11 there has kind of just gotten sucked right into the flower. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go through that second 11 that's in the stem there. So I've come through the 15B and gone through that second 11A in the stem. Gonna pull this through, and now what we're gonna do is we're gonna do some berries and little clusters along the stem here before we get to the second flower. And what you can have a look over here, you can see I brought in the 4x6 millimeter check drops and my magatamas. And the way these are gonna work is sort of the simplest one you can do is just literally a single drop, and you could use either a drop or a magatama, but we're gonna be using a drop here. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna pick up 3 of my 15 E's, one of my drops, here's my drop, 3 more 15 E's, and what we're going to do is kind of slide everything down. You want to slide it down first. I find you get better tension if you slide everything down first, and then I'm going to go, you can see I'm kind of holding everything down tight here. I want to go up through that next 11A there in the stem. I'm just going to pull everything tight, just like that. There you go, and kind of try to keep everything tight as you go so these berry clusters are nice and tight up against the stem. So that's a very simple one. You can do a slightly more complicated one by doing multiple little drops on sort of a little stalk that comes off the main stem. So to do that, I'm going to show you, I'm going to use 3 11Bs. So I'm switching to my other color of 11 here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab myself one of these drops here. And so for the drop, we're going to pick up, just do like before, pick up your 3 15Es and pick up your drop and your 3 15Es. And we're going to slide all these beads down. Slide them right down to the stem there. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back through, just through that third of the 11Bs there. So I'm just going through 1 11. I'm going to pull everything tight. Again, you can see I'm using my fingers there to kind of hold the beads nice and tight as I pull everything down. I want to keep it all nice and tight, and if you can pop things in place, you can do that. And now what we're going to do is we're going to do another little drop coming off of this sort of secondary stalk here. And I'm going to use, this time I'm going to use a magatama instead of the larger size drop. So with magatamas, you only need 2 15Es, your magatama, and 2 15Es. They're smaller, so we don't need as many 15s. And then I'm going to kind of hold everything, again, hold everything tight and go through that next 11. So it's the second 11 in that stalk there. So you can see going through there. And pull all of this down, just like that. And now we're going to do another, let's go with another magatama here. So I'm going to do my 2 15Es, a little magatama, 2 more 15Es. Going to slide everything down. And go back through that first 11 there. So you're going through that first 11. That kind of finishes this little cluster. That's sort of a little secondary stalk. Comes off the main stem with a little cluster. Get our tail thread out of the way there. And I'm just going to go up through now, up through that next 11A that's in the stem, right? And I'm going to keep on going. I'm going to make a couple more clusters. You can do whatever kind of size you want. I usually don't go larger than a 3-berry cluster, which is what you see here. So you can kind of make these decisions as you go along. But I usually do maybe a couple more, like a total of 4 of these little clusters before we do the next star flower. So let me do those, and then I'm going to come back and I will show you doing the next star flower. Okay, so I have my 4 little clusters there, and I'm ready to do another star flower here. So if we have a look at the finished earring over here, you can see there's actually a total of 3 star flowers there. So we're going to be starting our second one that you see here. And it's going to be done just the same way we did the first one. So we want to start off just with a little stem coming off of the main stem. So I say 4 or 5 11As. You want to start with those, and then you can pick up your 6 millimeter pearl pearl. We got those guys over here, 6mm pearl. And then again, it's the same thing all over again, where you're going to start by making the little picot with the 15A, 15B, 15A, and then you're going to be surrounding the pearl with the alternating 15Bs, 15As, just like we did before. So I'm not going to sit here and do this all again for you because you've done it once already, but I'm going to go ahead and finish off this second flower, and then I will come back and we'll have a look at that and see where we're at. Okay, so at this point, that second flower is all done. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through, this is the second 11 on the stalk there, because if you remember, the first one kind of gets sucked right into the flower. So I'm going to go through that. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a couple of embellishments along here, and they're just going to be the single berry embellishments. So maybe I'll start with one with the magatama. So I'll pick up my two 15Es, my magatama, and my two 15Es. And just go through the next bead in that sort of the actual sort of, it's like a secondary stem for the flower. So I don't want to make it too thick because I don't want to cover up the flower, but just kind of add a little embellishment along that little secondary stem. And I'm going to work my way back to the main stem. So that's what I'm doing here. And it just kind of fills in nicely a little bit. Try not to get caught. It gets trickier as you go along because there's a lot of things to get caught on. But we're going to just do one more here. There's space to do one more. That will bring me back to the main stem. And then what I'm going to do, like we did before, I'm just going to do, for I think the next 3 spots, I'm going to do little clusters like we did down here. So, you know, you can do single berry or 2 or 3, whatever you like, just to fill in the space there. So I'm going to do that. And then I will come back. We're going to do a 3rd star flower after that. Okay, so I have my little clusters there. We did 3 more on that primary stem there, and I'm up getting close to the top. So I'm going to do a 3rd star flower. That's what I'm going to do now. And you can pick up whatever you want, really. I mean, this is all, it's very organic, so you have a lot of freedom in this, but either 4, 5, 11As. I'm going to go with 4, I think. And we're going to build another star flower just the way we've done the previous one. So I'm not going to sit here and make you watch all this. You've done this before, but I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to build this star flower just as we did the earlier ones, and then I'll come back and we'll finish off the top of the stem there, and we'll put the loop on. Okay, so I've finished the 3rd star flower, and then I've come back along the stem and I've added those single berries that we did, like on the 2nd star flower, and I'm back into the main stem, and I just have a couple of spots. It's 3 more spots to put these little berry clusters in. So at this point, you'll probably want to kind of taper them down in size and not do them as large. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do, one that has, 1 or 2 that have just a couple berries, and then the very top one I'm just going to do with a single berry so that it's, it's not too crowded up there. So let me go ahead, do that, and then I'm going to come back and we're going to put that loop on the top, which is how we're going to be attaching the French ear wire. Okay, so I've finished off those little berry clusters. We're back at the top, and you can see I've kind of pulled back the stop bead. We're going to take that right off. We don't need that anymore. And what we're going to do is we're going to put these couple little beads. If I pull this over, we can have a look at the other earring. These couple beads at the top, and then there's a loop here. If you see, there's kind of a loop that is what we attach the ear wire to. So you have options here. I just did a rondelle, and on this one, if you remember, we talked about it at the beginning. This one has a 6mm pearl. The other one that I had has a 5mm pearl. This one has a slightly smaller one. So what you put up here, it totally up to you. I mean, you can use something totally different too. You just want some kind of bead there. And then, so here we go. I have my rondelle and my 6mm pearl so that they match. And then what you're going to do is, you can slide those down, and then I want to pick up 9 of these 15Es. So these are what are going to make our loop. So we want to make sure we got the right number there. I think that's 6. That should be 9. So there's my 9 beads. And now what I'm going to do is slide it all down. I want to go back through that pearl. I want to go through the rondelle, and I'm going to go down through a couple 11s here. You want to make sure you keep, it's going to try to loosen up here. You can see how it's loosening up because I've taken the stop bead off. So you want to keep pulling on the tail and pulling everything tight like that. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to weave off this thread here. I'm going to weave sort of further down into the flowers, and I'm just going to half hitch 2 times and cut it off. So let me go ahead and do that, and then I'm going to come back and I'm just going to show you what we're going to do with the tail threads. Okay, so at this point, I have woven off that working thread. I've half hitched it down here in the flowers. All I have left are the tails that are left from where we started. And if you have a look where those are coming out, they're coming out of that top 11A, but they're headed up towards the rondelle and the pearl. So really, to weave them off, we kind of want to go up through all those beads again. It will help reinforce it too, and then weave it off within the flowers. So if you started with a double thread, that leaves you with 2 tails. You can certainly, if you're feeling adventurous and you want to thread up both into the same needle like that, you can do it, but you can certainly weave them off one at a time. It's pretty challenging getting those through the eye of a 13. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, if you have a look here, I'm just going to come up through the rondelle and the pearl. You know, be careful as you go. You're going to catch on things, so just take your time. It's very frustrating to see that thread caught later on when you go back and you've woven everything off. So just be careful as you work. It's sort of inevitable when you have so many embellishments. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go up and around through those 9 15Es. And we're going to go back down through our pearl and through our rondelle, and then we're going to weave this off just the same way we did with with the first working thread. Just kind of half hitch a couple times within the flowers, and then once you've half hitched, you can just go through a couple more beads and then just cut your thread. So let me go ahead and do that. I'm going to come back, and the last thing is just to put that French ear wire on. Okay, so that's all the thread woven off, and the last thing we have to do is we're just going to attach the ear wire, which is what you see over on this one here. You can see I've already attached it on this one, so let's just do that really quickly. You can decide which way you want it to go. If you want them to be, mirror image of each other or whatever. You don't really notice actually because they're so organic looking. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pick up my ear wire. You got my little pliers here. If necessary, you can pry it open. You often can do this with your fingers too, but sometimes it's a little bit easier with pliers. You're going to insert those into the loop there and pop it through, and then you can just take your pliers again to kind of just close that up so it doesn't fall off. And there we go. That's your starflower earring. So I already had one done, but if you've only done one, you got one more to go, and then you will be all finished. I wanted to show you these ones as well. This is a different pair that I did. You can see here, these are the 3 flower each earrings, and I did them all in silvers and whites because I thought it really looks like snowflakes. So for the winter, that's kind of a nice option as well. So I wanted to show you those. And then finally, I wanted to show you this very sort of simplified version of this earring. This is actually the original design back when I produced it for my line of jewelry that I did. And these are very, very quick to whip up. It's only 7 11s to start off with, and this one we did 14. You're just going to do 7, do your starflower, and then as you work your way back up, it's just going to be single berry embellishments, going back up towards the top. And then again, the top is done the same way as we did on these ones. So these are nice, and they, like I said, they're very quick to whip up if you're looking for a nice little present or something for yourself for when you're going out. So just wanted to take a minute to show those to you too, because I think it's nice to kind of see some other ideas. And if you have a look on the PDF instructions that I did for you, I've actually listed out, not only for this one, but for the colored ones as well, exactly the bead numbers that I used. So if you're looking to match them to the ones that you've seen in the video, you can find those there. Thanks for joining me today for the Starflower earrings. Be well, stay safe, happy holidays, and bead on.